Hi everyone, welcome back. In this video, I am going to show you how to customize the Angular diagram component and its elements. You will see how to customize the diagram canvas and display page breaks and add multiple pages. You will also see how to customize the appearance of nodes and connectors. First, I open an existing Angular application where I have added a diagram component that renders a simple flowchart. It checks whether a number is even or odd, with pre-created nodes and connectors. To learn more about integrating the diagram component into an Angular application, please check the Getting Started video linked in the card above and the description below. Let me run this application using the command ngserve. The diagram canvas renders with the flowchart. Let's first customize the diagram page by setting a custom height, width, and margin to the page. To set the custom page size, I define the page options variable of type page settings model, which is imported from the Syncfusion EJ2 Angular Diagrams package, and set the height to 842 pixels and the width to 595 pixels. To enable the page breaks on the canvas, I define the Show Page Breaks property and set its value to true. I also set the page margin to 20 pixels in all directions. I assign this page options variable to the page settings property. Look at the canvas rendered with the defined dimension and margin settings. The default orientation is landscape, which means the page width is more than the page height. To render the diagram in portrait orientation, I set the orientation property to portrait. The page is rendered in portrait orientation, which means the page height is more than the page width. To apply a background color to the page, I add the background property within the page settings property and set a custom color. The page background is now set to the custom color. Next, I would like to create multiple pages to fit all the nodes and connectors. When I print or export the diagram, the elements that exceed the page size will be added to the next page. This can be achieved by enabling the multiple page property. When any node renders beyond the page boundary, a new page will be created. Grid lines are the pattern of lines drawn behind the diagram elements that provide visual guidance while dragging and arranging the objects on the diagram surface. By default, the diagram canvas displays all the grid lines. You can also display the canvas with horizontal lines, vertical lines, or without any lines, and more. In this example, I'm going to display the diagram canvas without grid lines. I declare the variable snap options of type snap settings model, which is imported from the Syncfusion EJ2 Angular Diagrams package. I set the constraints property to none. Then, I assign the snap options variable to the snap settings property. You can see the diagram canvas rendered without any grid lines. So far, you have seen how to customize the diagram canvas. Now, I will show you how to customize the appearance of nodes. To achieve this, I add the getNodeDefaults property with the callback method nodeDefaults. This method will be called whenever a node is created. I define this method in the app component TS file. This method receives the node model as an argument, which contains details for each node on the canvas. This model class is imported from the Syncfusion EJ2 Angular Diagrams package. To customize the node style, I add the style property and set the fill property to light green. Stroke color to orange. Stroke width to 3. And stroke dash array to 7,7. The fill property applies background color to the node. Stroke color applies the border color, stroke width is the width of the border, and stroke array is the pattern of the stroke. You can see that the nodes are customized with the specified styles. Next, I will show you how to apply a gradient style to nodes. The available types are linear, radial, and none. I define the gradient property and set the type to linear. Then, I create a new linear gradient brush with the start point of 0 on the x1 and y1 properties. I set the endpoints to 50 on the x2 and y2 properties. Next, I need to define the gradient stops property for smooth color transition. That is, set colors for transition, and position where the first color ends and the next color starts. I define the stops property and set it to white with an offset of 0. And to royal blue with an offset of 100. You can see the linear gradient appearance of the nodes with the defined colors. Similarly, you can apply a radial gradient appearance by setting the appropriate properties. The nodes are positioned based on the offset values. By default, offset values represent the distance between the origin of the diagram's page and the center of the node, that is, the 0.5 and 0.5 pivot value. The distance between the page origin and the node can also be set on different pivot points like 0, 0 for the top left corner and 1, 1 for the right bottom corner. Now, to change the position of the nodes, I add the pivot property and set 0, 0 to the x and y axis values. As you can see, the node's position and rotator have changed based on the pivot value. I'll remove this pivot property to explain other customization with more clarity. Next, I will show you how to customize connectors. To customize all the connectors, I add the getConnectorDefaults property and assign the connectorDefaults method that will be triggered when each connector is created. I define this method in the app component TS file, where I receive the argument, connector model, to customize the connector. This model class is imported from the Syncfusion EJ2 Angular Diagrams package. To customize the connector color, I define the style with the stroke color property to blue. By default, the source decorator is set to none, and the target decorator is an arrow. To customize the source decorator, I add the source decorator property and set the shape to diamond. You can refer to the document link attached in the description below to see the types of decorator shapes. I also customize its style using style property and set the fill to yellow, the stroke color to blue, and the stroke width to 2. Similarly, I customize the target decorator using the target decorator property and set its shape to indented arrow. Checking now, the connectors and their decorators are customized based on the provided shape and styles. When I try to select the connector, it is selected as soon as the mouse is in its vicinity. The default proximity is set at 10 pixels from the connector. This means that the connector is selected when the mouse comes within 10 pixels of it. To customize this proximity, use the hit padding property. To demonstrate, I add the hit padding property and set its value to 40 pixels. The connector is selected when the mouse reaches the specified padding. By default, the connector's endpoints are in contact with the nodes to which they connect. If you want to add space between the connector endpoint and the node, use the padding property. To demonstrate, I set the source padding and target padding properties to 5 pixels. Looking at the connectors, they render with the defined padding styles. Next, I will show you how to bridge the connectors. I import the connector bridging model class and diagram component from the Syncfusion EJ2 Angular Diagrams package. Then, I inject this model class into the diagram component. I declare a variable, connection, and set the diagram constraints of enum type, which has a set of predefined values for bridging, zooming, panning, and so on. I add bridging by setting the diagram constraints to default and bridging. In the app component HTML file, I add the constraints property and assign the connection variable to it. I change the position of nodes and connectors. Notice that, when two connectors cross, bridging takes place and makes the intersection smooth. By default, the bridging direction is top. The component also supports left, right, and bottom. Let me customize the direction to right by setting the bridge direction property to right. You can see the bridge direction is customized. Finally, I will show you how the diagram component is responsive to the parent container. To demonstrate, I need to set its height and width to 50%. I set the custom height to the body, since its height is set to auto by default. When I resize the browser page, the diagram canvas will be responsive. In this video, you have seen how to customize the diagram canvas. You also learned how to display page breaks and enable multiple pages in the canvas. Additionally, I showed you how to customize the appearance and position of the node and connectors. You can download a working example of this from the GitHub link in the description for this video. I've also included a link to see if you're eligible for our community license, which will provide you with a free license key to use our products. Thank you for watching. If you found this video useful, give it a like and subscribe to our channel.